So in this video, we will be talking about Shinsu. So what exactly is Shinsu? Well, Shinsu is a substance that flows through and is produced by the tower itself. Each floor has an area of varying amounts of Shinsu density, which increases on each and every floor. And in lower concentrations, its density makes the substance act like a gas. When it's in a higher concentration, it behaves like a liquid. Shinsu's most significant difference to air, the laws by which it operates. Unlike air, which uniformly conforms to the laws of pressure when flowing, Shinsu has no unifying laws. It flows entirely differently in different places, as well as different floors, at both its own whim and that of the guardians of the floor. The flow of Shinsu determines its qualities, allowing it to appear as water, fire, light, and other phenomena, including materials. Shinsu has no singular property or feature, which means Shinsu has no singular property or feature, and is rather the very basis of all energy and things within the tower. And this means Shinsu is essential for living in the tower, as it allows people to breathe and also provides moisture for the inhabitants, hence why it's been named the Divine Water. Livero stated that within the tower, Shinsu replaces air and carries out all the processes that air would. And another thing Livero mentioned was that Shinsu is said to have no limit, and through Shinsu alone, one could attain eternal youth, immortality, control over elements, and to even gain the power of a god. And he had also heard rumours that it was able to create life, and due to some of the facts stated above, sometimes when people start to handle Shinsu, their growth stops before they become adults. And simply being able to directly control Shinsu is a very rare talent, and it can be said that this talent itself is an absolute necessity required in order to become a ranker. And basically, most, if not all, regulars have some degree of control over Shinsu, but this doesn't mean all regulars can become skillful manipulators of Shinsu. And while wave controllers specialize in using it, all positions have to learn it eventually to pass the tests, to fight successfully, or to use it to strengthen their own bodies. The regulars who have entered the tower on their own power have a natural affinity with Shinsu, which leads to them being extremely powerful. And this is one of the reasons they are considered to be dangerous. Shinsu resistance is a natural resistance against Shinsu. So this means that Shinsu resistant is a natural resistance against Shinsu, allowing the individual to resist attacks consisting of Shinsu, and it would even allow people to move around in areas with certain amounts of Shinsu density. There are two ways to control Shinsu, which are controlling through an item or to directly control. Generally speaking, when one says manipulating Shinsu, they're usually referring to people who can directly control it. And Shinsu manipulation abilities vary greatly among individuals. Although members of the 10 great families have a large chance of being born with the talent of Shinsu manipulation, and even branch members of these main houses can be also born with this talent to a degree at birth. You can also externally manipulate Shinsu to change the environment, to attack an opponent, or to carry out other actions, such as flight or levitation, which is known as Shinsu manipulation. And also, depending on the group or region, it also goes by a few other names, such as water mastery, which allows the user to make water servants, or wind techniques, which allows the user to conjure wind skills. Shinsu can also be used to enhance physical abilities, to create barriers, and even to create a formidable destructive energy blast. In order to manipulate Shinsu directly, without the use of an item within the inner tower or the outer tower, a contract must be made with the guardian of the floor. And in regards to items, only items that have already gained a contract can be used. Due to the person has created a contract with one guardian, does not mean the person can use Shinsu on every floor. They can only use Shinsu on that particular floor. After a contract has been made with a guardian, one must uphold several terms and conditions, and if the person violates any of these rules, the contract is considered to have been broken, and the person's rights are taken away from them, making their contract null and void. And the strictness of these rules varies between classes in terms of their contracts. And some rankers and higher rankers, when making a contract with a guardian, can almost be restriction free. Also, to be stated, it is not impossible to manipulate Shinsu without a contract. Simple manipulation of amounts below a certain standard is possible without a contract. Also, an innate resistance to Shinsu, a body strengthening ability that utilizes Shinsu or other similar skills, are all natural abilities and one can have, and thus does not require contracts. The basic use of Shinsu manipulation is called Baang, with an additional A. The size of the Baang is called Myun, and the density of Shinsu that goes in a Baang is called Soo. The Baang is the basic unit in which Shinsu is measured by and made up of. The more Baang one can control, the more skilled at manipulating Shinsu one is judged to be. However, this does not mean one can manipulate Myun and higher Soo with many Baangs, due to there are different states and densities. As the number of Baangs increase, it becomes a lot harder to control, making it more difficult to do so. And overdoing it would make it harder to control, and overdoing and overusing Baangs can physically and mentally exhaust the manipulator. And in some serious cases, this could lead to their own demise. And if the user is supported by a lighthouse, the manipulation of the created Baang can become much easier. But this doesn't in turn allow the user to create more Baangs, it just helps them maintain it. And for an E-class rank regular, the control of 3 or more Baangs appears to be rare, showing it's a more difficult task for people new to Shinsu. And out of all E-rank regulars, there are only about 10 individuals who can control 3 Baangs, showing that it is indeed rare. And it's said that higher rankers normally can control between 30 to 50 Baangs at a time, which sounds rather impressive in comparison. So now we'll be explaining what Myun is. Myun refers to the size of the Baang. Specifically, it refers to the surface area that Shinsu is spread out across. Regardless of height, 1 Myun is equal to around 3.3 square meters of Shinsu, just to clarify. When discussing the size of a Baang, the height is not considered because its range of fluctuation is large and heavily depending on the situation, which makes it difficult to discern. It can be said that the wider the Myun one can control, the wider the area in which Shinsu can be applied. And those who can control a large Myun are closer to what the traditional wave controllers were, who controlled the flow of the battlefield back in Zahard's reign. And since they had to be able to control Shinsu throughout the whole battlefield, the Myun these wave controllers had would have had to be the size of the entire battlefield. However, because one can control a wide Myun, doesn't mean one can manipulate a certain concentration of Shinsu within the Myun. Normally, the center of Myun has the highest concentration of Shinsu, and the circumference has the lowest concentration. Some skilled manipulators can make the outer layer quite dense too, which would throw people off guard. There are also some individuals who can control the concentration within the Baang quite freely, although this is quite a rare ability itself. So now we'll be explaining Soo. Soo, referring to the concentration or mass of Shinsu within a Baang. Only the concentration of Shinsu in the most concentrated area of the Baang is used to calculate Soo. There isn't numerical unit used on Earth that can be related to Soo. The measurement of Soo can only be done by using a lighthouse, and less commonly, observers or someone with specialized senses. The higher the Soo, the more effective and destructive a Baang is. This is why controlling a high Soo is extremely important. Normally, the denser the Shinsoo in the environment, the faster the Soo in a Baang can be increased. However, there is a limit to the amount of Soo that can be pressed into a Baang, and this depends on the person. The environment has no effect in overcoming this limit whatsoever. The concentration of Soo within a Baang is not uniform either. The value of Soo changes depending on the Myun, so there are big differences in regards to Soo between individuals who manipulate Shinsu. And if the person has a very good mental concentration, it is possible to manipulate a high Soo of Shinsu within a smaller Myun. And if the person is very good at distributing data processing, it is possible to manipulate a certain amount of Soo within a larger Myun. Baang, Myun, and Soo are very closely related, and when supported by a lighthouse or some other form of aid, large differences can be seen. Normally, the more numerous number of Baang, the smaller the Myun and the lower the Soo. That can be managed. And the larger the Myun, the lower the Soo that can be managed. So therefore, heavily depending on the numeric value of Myun and Baang, as an increase in either means a decrease in Soo. Fundamentally, this is known as the minus tendency. Sometimes there is a special case in which the number of manageable Myun and Soo instead increase as the number of Baangs increase. This special case is also known as plus tendency and is an extremely rare talent. The minus tendency can be overcome with improvement from training and support from external aids, which helps in reducing the amount subtracted. However, one can never become a plus tendency, no matter how hard they train, if they don't currently have the ability. And also, being a plus does not mean one can produce an infinite number of Baangs. Pluses find it equally difficult to increase the number of Baangs. So now we'll be talking about the two major types of Shinsu manipulation. Firstly, there is flow control, and secondly, there is reverse flow control. Flow control is reading the original flow of Shinsu and manipulating the natural flow. And on the other hand, reverse flow control refers to completely altering and even reversing the flow of Shinsu to produce an effect. Flow control is reading the flow of Shinsu and manipulating it according to the flow. Although there is no exact predictable pattern to the flow of Shinsu, Shinsu does momentarily flow in certain directions, so one can efficiently manipulate Shinsu by reading and encouraging the flow in which the Shinsu desires to go. Once one begins to control Shinsu in one direction, it is very difficult to change directions, but not impossible to. The greatest advantage to flow control is that it allows the manipulator to control a large amount of Shinsu without much effort. Compared to reverse flow control is much faster, and the user can control larger amounts of Shinsu. Sometimes, can take advantage of the flow of the enemy's Baang of Shinsu to make it their own. Of course, the most important part is reading the current flow of Shinsu and finding the optimum point, the best way to use it. This also applies to body reinforcement. Every living organism in the tower has an individual flow of Shinsu. By using this flow, one can heal themselves or their allies. They can enhance physical capabilities or grant numerous other abilities. Of course, the opposite is also possible. You strengthen or speed up the flow of Shinsu within your own body, you can strengthen and speed up your own body. But you may also inflict a proportional amount of internal damage on yourself. This also applies to others as well. If you control your enemy's flow of Shinsu beyond its limits, your enemy will be reduced to nothing more than a sack of skin, like a popped water balloon. Reverse flow control is controlling Shinsu by forcefully changing its flow. It is slower than flow control, and thus generally means the user can only control a smaller amount of Shinsu in comparison to flow control, but allows the user to completely dictate the flow of Shinsu. allowing them efficiency for the amount of Shinsoo used. Reverse flow control is mostly used to destroy or stop the enemy, and reverse flow control requires more caution when compared to flow control. In fact, to reverse flow control, you need to be able to read the flow of Shinsoo more accurately than you need to for flow control. You instead break, block, and shatter the flow and make it your own. Changing the flow of Shinsoo in the wrong ways can be unintentionally destructive, requiring caution. Even though this may sound very destructive, flow control is actually better for destroying things. Shinsu control by some special people can contain special qualities, and the properties of Shinsu are dictated entirely by how it flows, allowing it to behave as heat, light, and the innumerable phenomena of the world. When Shinsu develops a flow that causes it to behave as one of these phenomena, it is said to have a quality. It is especially rare for one to be able to cause Shinsu they control to manifest qualities, but the benefits are extreme. As a Shinsu quality that suits its user is easier to use and can be concentrated into a Baang easier, with even greater density, and it's possible for a person to have more than one Shinsu quality. And tension is the ability to pack a lot of power into a small Baang. If you concentrate a lot of power into a Baang, it will create a ton of power when it explodes. And make sure to smash the subscribe button if you found this video informative or enjoyable. And if you want to watch more videos, make sure to check the playlist here or this video right here. And make sure to have a wonderful day.